All right, everybody. Welcome back. You have made it to repetition and routine day 2. Thank you so much for joining me again. We are going to be continuing to work kind of in some baseline, foundational, set us up moves that will gear us up for lots of other funky stuff down the road. But again, just setting into core, back, glutes, legs, things that we want to make sure are super strong and functioning well, have great range of motion for everything else. So I have a set of 40-pound dumbbells, 15-pound dumbbells, and 25-pound dumbbells that I'm going to be using today. So grab whatever works for you. Have a couple different options, but if you only have one set of 8s, just use that. You can work at a faster pace. We're going to be working in 10 rep sets today. And we're going to be going 2 exercises in a block. So we'll do 2 exercises, 10 reps each, 3 rounds through before we move on to the next set. So let's go ahead and start on the ground on our hands and knees. And I'm going to have you plant your hands right underneath your shoulders, spread your fingertips nice and wide, pull your elbows to point back at your knees, and then I just want you to reach your shoulders up over your fingertips, and then sit back on your heels, reach up over those fingertips, back on your heels. So think about your core, what's going on with that abdomen right now. You should go ahead and be grabbing up underneath that rib cage, tightening up through your pelvic floor. Okay, hold this one just a little longer. Good. And then flip your hands around so that the palms face your armpits and you're pushing the backs of the hands onto the mat. Bring your hands back forward on your mat and let's go up into that downward facing dog. So point your first finger straight ahead, really drive into your thumb and first finger, slide those hips up and back. Remember that we want to try our best to hide our ears inside our biceps. So if that means you need to bend your knees a little bit to get a little more room through the hamstrings so you can get your chest back there, go for it. Pedal out your feet, drop one heel to the ground and then the other, one heel and then the other. Make sure that your core is strong here. Make sure you're grabbing through that pelvic floor. Tighten up deep, deep, deep. Sink those shoulder blades down. Just hold the body still for a couple breaths. It's always important to remember to just get the body into ranges of motion before it has to start working very hard. And going through these ranges of motions other times throughout the day will be extremely beneficial for a healthy and strong body. Okay, lie on your back. Put your feet just a little bit wider than your hips. Put your arms out nice and wide on the ground with your palms down. Or if you'd like, you can put your arms back in a goalpost position. Okay, and then you're just going to let your knees rock to the left and then to the right. So depending on what you do generally throughout the day, this is a super duper great little mobility set to do as often as possible so we can get pretty tight and rigid in our mid-back, the thoracic region, if we sit very much throughout the day, or even if you stand in one position. Standing desks are great, but anytime that you're in one position for prolonged periods of time can actually cause some tightening in the body, stiffness. All right, stay in the middle, and I'm going to have you tug your left knee in, push your right leg out, bring up your head and shoulders, and then switch to the other side. So when you get those knees going side to side like that, then you kind of have a passive stretch through that mid-back. And then here we're getting a passive stretch to the hip flexor as that one leg hangs out long, gets a little pull, the other knee pulls in. Also super good for your SI joint, sacroiliac joint. We'll go 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm going to show you what's coming up here. First round of work, we are going to focus on the core, the abdomen. So we are going to be doing a runner sit-up. This is actually one of the more difficult sit-ups that we do. So I'm going to show you how to start with it and how to maybe pare it down. Okay, so I'd like for you to put both heels in the ground. The closer that your feet are to, the more difficult your sit-up is going to be. The further away they are, the easier. What you're going to do, depending on how strong your core is, whether or not you've done runner sit-ups before, is you're just going to slowly start to hinge back and you're going to stop at your point of no return. Then from there, you can actually grab onto the back side of your thigh and pull your opposite elbow up toward the knee. Or if you don't need that hand, hit it up here. Or if you can go all the way back, great. and then crunch in from there. So the big deal here is to make sure to round in, push your low back into the ground. Make sure you stay contracted so we're not releasing and then heave-hoing back up, but we're holding flexion and contraction. So we're going to go 10 each side. So 10 on the left and then 10 on the right. So I'm going to have us split it apart. All 10 on one side, all 10 on the other. From there, we're going to go into an oblique V-up. So you're going to find the fleshy part of your booty. You don't really want to lay on your hip bone. Doesn't feel super great. Okay, again, we'll kind of pare it down. So if you notice, I'm all the way on my armpit. The back is all the way on the ground. You need this arm out here on the floor to kind of help assist. The other arm's going to come up, and if you can, get that top leg up. That's also what we're going for. So here we want to contract into the core. You have to contract, flex in before you even get the move going, and you're flexing into your oblique, okay? So then you're going to get that lift. Make sure that you're feeling the oblique contract to get that flexion here, okay? The closer your hand is down by your side, the more difficult it's going to be. The more it's out here, the more you can kind of use it to help you assist your way up. If that's a little too easy and you'd like something a little bit more difficult, lift both feet off the ground and then you can bend your knees in. If that's too easy, you can go both legs up. All right, so we're going to go 10 each side, the runner sit up and the oblique sit up, 3 rounds through. All right, abs, here we go. Ready, set, and start. So all 10 on one side and all 10 on the other. This is a power sit up. Get your full twist. 7, 8. You want that low back to hit the ground. And then the other side. Don't worry if you need to take breaks. We're going to get to do this workout again if you forgot or were unaware. 9 and 10. Okay, roll to the side. Bring that arm up and over. 2, 3. Flex deep into that oblique. 7, 9, and 10. So you just find where you're at. If you need to take a few breaks, if you don't get as many reps, don't worry about it. You're working the body. You're getting there. It's about getting on the mat for about 30 minutes and building that consistency and that routine. 8, 9, 10. You do not have to go balls to the wall right away. You do not have to build a ton of sweat or feel super fatigued. If you're just starting out, you're building the habit, you're building the routine of getting on your mat every day for 30 minutes. And 10. And maybe you don't want to do this every day. That's okay. You don't have to. But something else for 30 minutes, a walk, a jog, a bike, another exercise program, whatever works for you. 7, 8. See if you can kind of spot flex different parts of the core and the belly that you want to feel the heat and the engagement coming from. 8, 9, 10. Getting that oblique, but supercharging the front of the belly as well. 3, flex in both directions. 9, 10. What other routines can you start building in? Buying more vegetables, getting them washed and cut. 6, 7, 10. Figure out what it is that you want to be building in a little bit more on, having be a little bit stronger of a habit. Figure out what the roadblocks are And then you adjust things to help you get there. Whew, 10. Okay, I'm going to start on my second side this time. Oblique V-ups. Those obliques are the muscles in the sides. 4, 5. I'm sure you're feeling those core muscles from our 6-minute plank from yesterday. 8, 9, 10. Other side. 4, 8, 9, and 10. All right. Hinge it back. Let's take a little child's pose stretch. Reach those arms way out in front. Sit your hips as close as you can to the heels. This is another opportunity to see how you progress, right? If you're struggling to get your hips all the way onto your heels, over time you should be able to get a little closer and a little closer, whether it's mobility or some of us have a little gut in the way. It's okay. Not a big deal. We're all working, going the right direction. Okay. Next up, we're going to hit dead rows and back taps. So it's a back set. I'm going to use my 25s here for my dead rows. Okay, so with a row and with a lot of back exercises, you hinge. Okay, you have a hip crease. We talked about this a little bit in your thigh, in your leg, right? It's where your leg is going to come up. You crease into that hip. So make sure you're not hinging from your waistline, but we're hinging from our hip creases, okay? This can put a lot of tension and pressure on your low back, especially if you don't have much core developed yet. And it's okay. Remember, we're here to just slowly progress and get stronger and build deep interior foundational strength. So depending on how much you've been hinging, how much you've been doing back exercises and core exercises, maybe you'll want to sit on a chair and maybe you'll want to go a little bit lower weight, okay? So all we're going to do is start with our weights at the kneecaps. So from those hip creases, you hinge forward, knees are soft, tighten and grab that low belly up, and then you're going to row your weights right up the thighs, pinching between the shoulder blades, okay? So don't think about, a lot of times you just get focused on what the moving part is. Let's focus on the muscle and the muscle group that we want to build and that we want to strengthen, okay? So grab the core, shoulders back and down, toes straight ahead, hinge forward. Grab across the abdomen, squeeze your shoulder blades together, and that's what's pulling the elbows up. Make sure that you have those weights pulling back toward your hip flexor as opposed to up toward your chest. 7, 8, lock into that belly, 9, and 10. Use your own self-flexion of the back first, then get that move, just like we talked about with the band yesterday. Okay, coming up next, we are going to grab our lighter set and do back taps. We're going to hinge again, although not quite as far. Grab deep into the belly. You're going to let your weights kind of hang long. And then you're going to slide those weights back with straight arms and tap behind you. You're using flexion through the back as opposed to momentum from the swing. 4, 5. The further forward that you hinge, the more difficult it's going to be. 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Back into those dead rows. You build intensity with your weight selection and your own self-flexions. Pull to those hip creases. Focus on the back flexing. 7, 9, 10. You're in charge of how you pick them up and set them down. Build that back. Lock in, hinge forward. 3, focus on the back, getting those arms pulled up. 8, 9, 10. Okay, last set. You should be feeling your upper back. The core is supporting the low back. Okay, find that hinge and pull. Check in with your body. Your back and neck should not be moving at all. 4. 8, focus that back. 10. Those weights just shave the leg. They come right along the side. Okay, then our back taps, hinge, belly locks. Can you keep that chest lifted? 8, 9, 10. Awesome. All right, let's go through a little bit of back stretch. Grab your hands in front of you, round, get a little bit of flexion, and then bring your arms up and back. We'll go a little bit of extension. Ooh. Okay, hinge over those legs, grab around your calf, pull that opposite shoulder down. Okay, we have lunges and deadlifts. So I'm going to go ahead and use my 25-pound dumbbells for lunges. We're just going to go static. So that means you're going to keep your feet still. They're not going to be moving forward and back. So a big thing with lunges is that I want you to feel all the work coming through the front hamstring and glute, okay? Start with your feet hip width. Take one leg, slide it back. And I want you to keep your feet hip width. So your legs or your hips are squared off and your knees line with that front toe. Drop forward over your front leg. 3, drive up through that front heel. So remember, we're working more on grabbing and pushing through that front glute and hamstring. 7, 8, lift the chest, grab the core. And 10, slide in, switch it up. Here we go. Drop and drive. Where's that core? 7, lots of hinge in that front hip flexor. And 10. Good. Okay, I'm going to move on to my 40s for the deadlift. You go with what you feel comfortable with. So your deadlift is hinging forward with a strong core and using your glutes to lift up. So you're just lifting dead weight up from the floor. So unfortunately, though, a lot of people struggle with deadlifts and their low back seems to get irritated and frustrated and hurt. So there's a few different things you can try, but I would love for you to not give up on your deadlifts yet. Deadlifts do not have to be massively heavy. In fact, you can go body weight. So put your feet right underneath your hips, toes straight ahead. Biggest thing is finding that core and then shoulder pack, right? So you have a strong stance here. This is your stacked set stance. Heels are under hips with soft knees. Your pelvis is neutral, so the core is strong. Tailbone gently tucked under. Chest is up. Shoulders over the hips. And your head is back, right? So we're trying not to round or lose any of the flexion in that upper back, which is really tough if you sit a lot or stand still. Okay, so we're moving and working the posterior chain, which is something that just doesn't get grabbed very often. So once you have that stance, grab across the core, open the chest. Seriously, even doing these, if you're very strong, you've been doing deadlifts a long time, it's really healthy and important to sometimes maybe just check in with body weight. What can you feel in your upper back? Can you roll the shoulder blades down? Can you grip across that core? And can you feel the work push in from the glutes? So what you want to do is from the bottom, drive up, stack without pushing, right? So we're not trying to find our skeletal strength, the bones, taking the weight. So sit on those heels, Slide shoulders back and down. Your range of motion is totally up to you, especially if you find that you're rounding. Your hamstrings might not be ready for you to go all the way to the ground yet. Belly button pulls back. 4. Use your hamstrings and glutes to lift. 5. Push that chest forward. Squeeze those shoulder blades. 9. 10. Perfect. All right. There's our deadlifts. Another thing that you can try if that still pulls on your back and you're only going to kneecaps is widening your stance. So having your feet a little wider, that might offer a little more help. Let me know if you're struggling with deadlifts. Let's attack it, figure out what's going wrong, and figure out what we need to do, make it better. Okay, lunges. Try not to just cut something out unless you know, based on an injury or something physical therapist or doctor has told you that you shouldn't do anymore. That is a reality. Sometimes that's the way life goes. You work around it, and you just know, as long as I don't do that, I'm fine. And that's good. But if you haven't been told that, switch and let's figure out what's going on, because something else is compensating, and you're just going to have issues other places creep up. 5. 7. Press through that front heel. 9. 10. That's a good lunge if you're getting that glute and hamstring on the front. All right, back at it. Deadlifts. I like to exhale up, inhale down. Deep interior core grab, deep interior back grab, lots of push. 10 through those glutes. Okay, one more set. Square those hips. Make sure you compress through that front heel. 4. Stay strong in your upper back. Push into that front foot on your 10th rep. Come on, go for range. Nine, 10. Whee! Super simple foundational exercises. Whew, get it. Whew. All right. Deadlifts. Last set. Bottom of the third. Here we go. Focus on what you're building. What'd you come for? Maybe you're just figuring the move. That's fine. 2 to go. Keep that back flat. 10. All right. We're going to go into a little cat-cow. Make sure our back is happy. Anytime you're feeling low back, just stop. Do a few of these. Double check that you can get that core foundation found. Go down in weight. Go range of motion. Just body weight. All right, neutralize. Hinge, hips left and right. All right, we're going to finish off with just a quick little cardio burst. Now, some of us don't jump, and that's fine. I also believe that in order to build a routine, which is half of what we're talking about in this series, you have to somewhat like what you're getting yourself into. So I know some people legitimately hate jumping. Again, I think it's important to find out why. Some people shouldn't jump. But for a lot of us, sometimes what we don't want the most or what we hate the most, we need the most. So figure out how to connect with a positive mindset. We're going to go jumping jacks and high knees. It'll be pretty fast. Okay, so grab in tight through that core. Make sure that you have that stack that we talked about. If you don't jump, I just want you to lift your arms and step your toes out. Okay, so we're going to do our 3 sets, but we're going to go 20 reps instead of 10. Okay, 1, 2. You go, the pace works for you. There's 10. 19, 20. Now pull those knees up. You can just march if you don't want to run. Use your core. 17, 19. Back to our jumping jacks. Keep your belly locked. 17. 19, 20. 10. 17, 18, 20. Stay on your toes. 20. Good job. Whew. All right. Hinge over those legs. Grab your breath. Always hate it when I forget to put in my jumping hair. Okay. Curl your toes under. Sit back on your heels. And then we're going to bring that right leg forward. Get our hip flexor stretch. So walk that back left knee back until you feel that pull on the front hip flexor. Line your knee and toe. Make little adjustments, turn. You can even lift the back leg if you get a better hip flexor stretch there. All of us have a little bit different mechanics, so you find what works for you. Plant onto your left hand. We're going to roll on the outside of the left foot, and you're going to feel some pull outside in the IT band on that left, and then through the outside of that quad, thigh, glute on the right. Rotate back around. Pull the toe up. Reach your chest forward. Square off those hips. Try to drop into that back hip, but we're not sitting down on the other leg. We're keeping those hips up, squared off, pulling the chest toward your ankle to feel that hip flexor. Okay, let's switch up to that other side. Pull your left leg forward, right leg back, drop in, feel that back hip flexor stretch. Same thing. Shift around until you feel that hip flexor where you want it. Sometimes I get a better stretch with my knee up, sometimes with my knee down. You find what works for you. Okay, let's drop onto the outer edge of the right foot. Get that stretch through the IT band, the outside of that other thigh. Awesome. Okay, and then we're going to roll down onto our booty. Okay, I'm going to have you pull one foot in, the other leg straight out. Okay, from there, so keeping that toe up, I want you to just lift. So left foot in, left arm's going to come up, right leg at an angle, and I want you to lean over, keeping the chest up so we're not folding on that right leg. We're just leaning that left arm up and over. It may look way up here, that's fine. This is such a great stretch for those backs, the hips, the glutes. There's so much going on in there. I think we're going to be bringing this one in a lot. Okay, switch to that other side. Right foot in, left foot out. Bring your right arm up and then stretch over. You can even just find how one side feels a little bit different than the other. Constantly checking in with the body. Perfect. All right, let's come into a low yogi squat. Set your elbows inside your feet. If you need your heels to come up off the ground for now, that's fine. This is something to check in with, though, as we progress. See if you can get those heels onto the ground. Plant your hands. Press it up. Straight legs. And then let's round up. Instead of coming straight up, round. This is one time that it's okay to have that back rounded. Come up slow, heels, hips. Lock that pelvis into place. Slide the shoulders down. All right. Walk through life, stand through life, sit through life with super strong posture. Get to work on those routines. And I will see you all tomorrow.